So POA percentage, this isn't going to change. Mystique had 0% POA as an example, and these dark cultivars, Hatrick 16.7%, Fireball 25%, Team Me Up is the third in Obsidian, 8.3%, where, you know, Hatrick and Fireball, those are the cultivars in Blackout. And then I think Blackout 2.0 is going to be a daughter cultivar, like a genetic spin-off of Fireball is what I heard. So I would expect this POA rating to get even worse. They seem to not care at all about disease or turf quality or POA percentage. Doesn't seem like any of that is factored in with that. It just is dark. So I would steer yourself away from the dark cultivars. So Blackout, I just averaged Hatrick and Fireball. So 16.7 plus 25 divided by 2 gets you 20.8% POA. And this isn't a perfect way to do this, but it's just the only way to do it. And it should be in the ballpark. So per cultivar average. So Obsidian has Team Me Up added to the Blackout mix, so 16.7% POA, a little better, but not pretty bad still after 5 years. And there doesn't have to be any POA seed in the bag. This is POA after 5 years. All right, Ryan Knorr, 3.6% POA, and there's a little asterisk because the Pangea, it did have POA tested, but it was a different year. It was on the 2010 NTEP trial, which is 2011 to 2014 data, where this is the 2016 NTEP trial mostly, which is 2017 to 2021 data. So different locations, different temperatures, you know, all that stuff, but similar. So Ryan Knorr, just take that number's not perfect apples to apples, but it should be very close. 5-iron, there are 5 cultivars in 5-iron, only 4 are on NTEP, so these little asterisks, the asterisk here is basically saying that just the 4 that were on NTEP are average 2.1, so 5-iron, very good. SS 9000, 1.7% POA. So these higher quality seed blends, so Knorr 5-iron, SS 9000, you can see they have not a lot of POA, so just take note of that. And then the stuff that gets marketed to people that maybe don't know as much as more seasoned people, maybe newer enthusiasts. So Blackout 20.8% POA, Obsidian 16.7, that is bad. All right, Mystique, so quality, and I'm gonna have other cultivars here too, so it'll be headed just like this. So instead of Mystique, it'll say Slugger is one I'm considering stocking. So Mystique, third out of 114 in these locations, but this is pretty sloppy. I don't like this much. So maybe this is 5 or 7 locations or something, and the average of those was third. But I don't know if rye belongs in most of those locations or half those locations. So this number's not, it's just a reference. It'll tell you it's probably pretty good. Third out of 114. That's not going to be terrible for quality at any of them, likely, when it's ranking that high. But here's like kind of the nicer mixes. Knorr 19th, 5-iron 12th, SS 9000 16th. So it just gives you an idea. Mystique's third in these locations. These are averaging in the ballpark of 15th. And then the dark cultivars, let's see, probably not the best quality. So 102 out of 114, so bottom 15%. And Fireball is also bottom 15%. And Mystique is top 30%. Top 3 versus bottom 15. And Mystique is similar color and much better quality, divot recovery, better disease profile. You're just giving up so much to get those dark cultivars, and they're not even much different. Let me show you this. So this is 58 days. See this picture here? 58 days after germination. It was darker than this to the eye. This right here, I was a little frustrated that the color wasn't doing it, or the camera wasn't doing it justice, but it was darker than it looked, and especially it was much darker than this. The seed box, or sorry, the grass box, so dark. And the lawn itself doesn't look as dark. There's the lawn up here, bottom left, or sorry, top left corner. So you can see the lawn itself, it's depending on the angle and stuff, but this looks very dark. And then this is quite dark for how young this grass is. This is only 58 days since germination in this picture here. So I'm excited to see this in spring. What I'm trying to say here is I don't miss my Hatrick was in my last lawn. This is nice color. I'm not missing it. I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything. All right, so quality in Schedule B, this is Virginia and Oregon locations. Mystique ranked 4th, so that's actually the 2 locations that are most applicable to my area. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and look at the quality mixes. So 90, I'm sorry, that's not the quality mixes. So Blackout's like 104th average. Yeah. All right, so Knorr 19th, 5-iron 43rd, SS 9000 14th. So Mystique again outperformed all of these for average quality. Mystique's 21st here, and these locations are not very hospitable to rye. These locations, I'm not real concerned about this, but this is still top, 18% ballpark. All right, Knorr 16th, 5-iron 22nd, and 30th. So Knorr was the only one that beat Mystique in this one here, but you could see again, Hatrick 66th, Fireball 102nd, Team Me Up 103rd, that's the third in Obsidian. So Blackout is these two. And we've just got consistently bad turf quality, which is kind of the first thing most like kind of pro turf looks at. All right, genetic color. So Mystique 17th, so about top 15% out of 114. And we got Hatrick and Fireball, obviously very high. TA Me Up as well. ASP 0116, third. Third. I think that should say second. So that, I think that's a typo actually. Either that, yeah, that should say second. I'm pretty sure that's a typo, sorry about that. All right, Slugger 18th out of 114. So Sluggers, I really like Slugger, the Slugger cultivar, but this is gonna get a lot more accurate. This is just gonna be locations where rye is appropriate. So these locations here, I'll get into that in a second, but I wanna go over Seed Boss data that's currently on here. So take the color with a grain of salt. Mystique is great on average, but it's gonna get more detailed, and you can count on that quality. The quality score and the color is going to be more fitting to locations where rye belongs. All right, but yeah, one thing that is notable is look at Knorr and all the quality blends. So Knorr is 38th, 5-iron 40th, SS 9000 49th, and Mystique is 17th as average color. So we've got nothing special here for color. So 38th, 40th, 49th, and I would say these are the better quality mixes you can get. I would much prefer any of these to either of these. So yeah, this is a little better than middle of the road, but not much. So just take note of that most mixes you get that have disease resistance don't also have color, but I am looking for stuff that's got both. So Mystique, 8.7 on that disease, 7.7 on this one. Let's look at Hatrick, Fireball. Low scores, similar scores, not quite as good on the Knorr, 7.4, 7.3, 7.3. Gray leaf, this is a big one. I'm going to do that one. I'm going to touch on that last because I want to show you guys something. All right, Mystique, 7.6 for crown rust. And the good mixes, we've got 5.8, 6.7, 6.5. So lower on all those. Mystique 7.0 for brown patch, 6.1, 6.5, 6.5 Seed Superstore 5-iron, and Knorr. And red thread, this is one I care a lot about. So 7.4 for Mystique, 6.1 for Knorr, average, because Pangea has a real bad red thread rating. Pangea is an awesome cultivar, but it just does not do good with red thread. And that is in Knorr's mix currently. All right, 5-iron, 7.4. And SS 9000, similar scores to the Mystique. So 7.4, 7.5, Mystique's at 7.4. So crown, gray leaf spot. Where are you here? All right, 7.7 for Mystique. I want to show you guys something. So Hatrick and Fireball, 2.7, 1.7. So this is the Blackout mix right here, just these two. And then Team Me Up is the third in Obsidian. So either of those dark mixes that are focused only on color, yeah, really crappy gray leaf spot. And so let's go over to NTEP. Let's go down to gray leaf spot. Should be in the ballpark of, it's going to be a little farther down. All right, there we go. Okay, so gray leaf spot. Oh, I wanted to show you guys something else. Well, we'll show you this real quick. So Fireball, almost dead last. So 1.0 is 100% dead. That's the lowest score you can possibly get on NTEP. So 1 to 9. So 1 means it's gone. There's no grass there anymore. And Fireball, 1.7. This is done in New Jersey, which is a pretty average location for in terms of rye suitability. In terms of the locations that are, where rye belongs, New Jersey's kind of middle of the road for climate, in my opinion. So Fireball 1.7 gray leaf, and gray leaf kills. It doesn't, it's not just like ugly. It can kill. So Yeah, and then here's Hatrick 2.7. But what I wanted to show you guys is this up here. So let's go to the cultivars list. Now, gray leaf spot is a big enough deal that you're going to notice something here. I want to point something out to you. So it's such a big deal that they've started putting it in the names of their cultivars. So Spike GLS, gray leaf spot resistant. Let's see, what else? GT, I don't know if that stands for it or not, but let's look at some more here. ASP 0118, so that would be Allied Seed, and so Allied Seed, that's the ASP. I don't know what the P stands for off the top of my head right now. I'm not really sure why. Huh. Anyway, ASP 0118 GL, gray leaf spot. And I'm going to go through all of them real quick, just look for the ones that I notice. Let's see here. There's a lot of them. Slider LS, leaf spot. 3GL, third generation leaf spot resistance. GLR, gray leaf resistant. Apple 3GL, gray leaf, so third generation gray leaf spot resistant. Slugger 3GL, third generation gray leaf spot resistant. Electra GLR, this is in Ryan Knorr's mix currently. GLR, gray leaf resistant. Home Run LS, leaf spot. Superstar GL, gray leaf. Are you guys seeing a trend? It's so important. It is in the name of the cultivar, like on a lot of these. So Stellar 4GL, fourth generation gray leaf spot. Grand Slam GLD, probably gray leaf disease. I don't know what the D, maybe gold. It's possible that's not gray leaf related. You could look at the gray leaf resistance and make a judgment there for how resistant it is. And this one cracks me up. They put the word gray right in the name. Gray hawk, gray wolf. Why do you think that is? Why would they just throw the word gray in there? Because it's important to have gray leaf spot resistance. Fireball 1.7, Hatrick 2.7, Team Me Up 3.3. I think Mystique was 7.7, and the quality blends like Knorr and SS 9000 and 5 iron, they're going to have gray leaf spot resistance, but you're not getting that with the Blackout, or probably not the next iteration of Blackout either. So just something to be aware of when you're buying seed. Color is not everything. The quality goes way downhill. The disease goes way downhill, like way downhill. I'll show you the disease score in a second. You'll be able to see like how it is overall with the disease, not just gray leaf spot. But I want to show you specifically gray leaf spot because it's so important. It's right in the name. I love it. All right, so let's see. Can I find any others? I don't see any. I probably missed one or two, but for the most part, I think I got most of them. But you can see gray leaf spot's so important, it's right in the name. All right, let's go back here. So yeah, that's gonna be here's where my disease score. It's something I made up to my knowledge. I don't think it's necessarily a real thing, but I think it is a nice way to look at grass and just tell if it is going to do well again, in general with disease. Because these diseases were tested at specific locations, but this is a real good indication. If it's going to do well with gray leaf, if it did well in New Jersey, it's probably going to do well elsewhere as well. Or if it did well against brown patch in one area, at least chances are good it has brown patch resistance elsewhere. Not always, but it's the best data we have, so it's all I have to work with. So gray leaf on Mystique 7.7. These mixes are all going to be pretty good. Knorr 7.7. These are average cultivar averages, and then Knorr has a little asterisk because one of his cultivars is slightly older, the Pangea, and it's different years, different locations most of the time. So you kind of have to just say that's not an apples to apples thing, but it should be in the ballpark. 5 iron, there's an asterisk here because one of the 5 cultivars is not on NTEP. So yeah, 8.4, this is obviously selected intentionally for gray leaf spot resistance. To have that high of a rating is kind of difficult to achieve. 5 cultivars in there, 8.4 average. SS 9000, 7.0. So yeah, not bad, but it's not a weakness for sure. So that SS 9000, one of the cultivars, the problem with having so many cultivars in one mix, if one is rated at like 5.8, you probably are going to see some leaf spot. If you get to 4.8 or 5.8, these lower numbers, that means there's a weakness in one of those cultivars. So anytime there's a weakness in one, you know, you might get a little bit of gray leaf spot and then a little bit of crown rust in this cultivar and then a little bit of red thread or brown patch or whatever in this other cultivar. So that's one thing I don't like about having too many seeds, but it is safer in terms of like, boom, the whole yard gets leaf spot or pythium or whatever, but most of that stuff you can control with your water and your nitrogen is kind of the most important factors with disease that are within your control most of the time, at least to some extent. So the diseases that kill lawn, so gray leaf, pythium, and brown patch doesn't necessarily kill, but I don't know. The worst diseases, the ones that oftentimes have attack the crown and kind of the roots, that type of thing, the root rot diseases that kill, are often associated with high nitrogen and water and heat, but usually those three together. So water, heat, and too much nitrogen. And then all the less severe diseases usually have a lot to do with low growth, like red thread, rust. Rust is often associated with low mowing, not mowing often enough as well, or dull blades, but mostly not mowing often enough. So it just hasn't been mowed for a long time. So low growth. So for dollar spot, red thread, and rust, you can just add nitrogen and half the time I'll get rid of it. I could not, in my case, the red thread, it was a well-fed lawn. I got red thread anyway, but probably 6 months at a time, my lawn is just a mud. So that kind of sucks. So I prioritize disease a little more than maybe I otherwise would. I don't apply fungicides. So if I get disease, it's a little bigger deal than if someone else gets it, but I don't intend to get any. So, or at least not much, hopefully. All right. So disease score. Here is kind of the rankings of, this isn't going to change. This stuff is good, set in stone, these rankings here, but I am probably going to add more cultivars and more mixes to this and make it more user-friendly, easier to see. This doesn't need to take up this much space like this. So Mystique, 38.4 disease score. So add up those 5 diseases, everything but snow mold that was tested on NTEP out of 45. So 9 is a perfect score, and 5, so 4 times 9, get you a score possible of 45. That would be no disease in any of them. Mystique was 38.4 out of the 45. So you divide that 38.4 by 45 to get yourself an 85%, so a B. And Hatrick, F. All right, so Hatrick, 59%, high F, at least it has color, right? Fireball, 22.7 out of 45, worst score I've seen so far. So 50%, definitely a failing grade. I would not recommend these if you like your lawn to not look like crap. You know, it'll look good when it looks good. Probably won't have, it won't look like this in your grass box probably. All right, so Pangea, this is a nice cultivar, I like it. It does have some weaknesses. Red thread is pretty low rating for it, and overall it's got a disease score of 74%. ASPs, and this is a little asterisk because, again, that's a different trial, different locations, but it should be in the ballpark with a C rating. ASP 0116, 24.6. These dark cultivars just do not do well. The top 5 ballpark cultivars, so 55%, it gets an F right in between Hatrick and Fireball. But yeah, very dark cultivar. I think it's the second darkest on average. All right, Team Me Up. I think that's number 4 for darkness. 63% a D. So yeah, 28.3. If you divide or get the NTEP scores, add them all up, divide them by 45, you'll get that 63%. Slugger, I like Slugger. It is probably my second favorite cultivar currently, and it has real nice disease resistance, nice color, nice quality. It's just a good cultivar. So yeah, 37.4. I will likely, depending on how the analysis goes, I'm about to do the much more detailed analysis. And if Slugger does come out on top and kind of remain in the top slots, I will be probably trying to stock that and kind of including it making mixes. And I also want to make it a custom blend tool so you can mix these different ryes together and KBG at will. You know, I might have recommendations, but I'll probably just let you guys do it. But yeah, if you want to do just rye mixes, you can say I want, 50% Mystique, 25% Slugger, and 25% this or that, whatever the best options I can get. And chances are pretty good they'll be better than everything else. At least in my opinion, I think my analysis is better. But yeah, you can judge for yourself. I'm going to put all the competition. I'm going to tell you where to get it, and you can buy whatever you feel most comfortable with. But I'm going to tell you, show you exactly how the average cultivar is for these mixes. So here's the disease score of the mixes. So 55% for Blackout, 57% for Obsidian. Knorr is getting a C in the disease, probably largely because the Pangeas weighing him down a little bit. And then Paradox and Electra are his other cultivars. One's more for drought, and one is, well, I don't really know what's great about the Electra, but anyway. So 5 iron gets an 82% disease score. SS 9000, 78% disease score, gets a C. All right, divot recovery. This is cool. I did not know that Mystique had performance here until after I planted it. So this was kind of a pleasant surprise. I was watching a DLF video. They had some PhD, digging grass up, and they were like, look at the divot recovery section of NTEP, and that'll give you an idea, your spread trait on rye. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's look at it. Third out of 114. They tested this in 2017. They tested it in 2020. So Mystique cut third. That's like kind of a similar trait to like RPR, like Barenbrug RPR, which has really bad color. And I don't know how the disease is on it, but RPR is designed for traffic. But if you want traffic, you might as well have KBG. It should outperform the RPR for traffic, and the color is capable of being better. So I'm not a fan of RPR just because of that color, and it's just not as good as other things at what it's designed to do. So, all right, Mystique, third out of 114, so top 3% there. And let's look at Fireball. Impressive as always, 113th out of 114, so bottom 2%. Hatrick, looks like bottom 5% for Hatrick. Team Me Up, also bottom 5% ballpark. ASP 0116. This is probably the darkest cultivar in my area based on New Jersey and Oregon. It's pretty dark. All right, 66th for divot recovery. Slugger, not great, but not terrible, middle of the road. All right, let's see. So mixes, Blackout, terrible, obviously. Obsidian, terrible. And all right, here we go. Knorr, so 22nd, 5 iron, 36th, SS 9000, 41st. So kind of middle of the road, a little, maybe top 30% average for these guys. And yeah, this is not a trait they're going for, obviously, but it's kind of a cool trait. It's kind of a cool characteristic of Mystique that I was happy to see, because it means less overseeding, and it should also help keep PO out, keep weeds out, keep turf quality high. So I think there's an association with divot recovery and nice turf quality. All right, but not fully, because these mixes have nice turf quality, and they're not getting quite as high, but these are pretty similar rankings to the turf quality ratings of these. Okay, drought testing. Again, this was done in Utah. Hatrick actually does first, so impressive, I guess. So if you have like no water, if you're out in a desert, you've got control of your water, so you might be able to avoid disease, in that situation. So there is a case to be made that Hatrick, under the right conditions in the right area, if you're controlling the water, keeping it at a little bit of a deficit, it could do pretty well for you. It just seems risky. And then the Fireball as well. Not terrible. So Mystique 13th for drought. I love Mystique. How does it do? How? It's like good in like every way. I don't get it. But anyway, 13th out of 114. So, top 12% ballpark. All right, here we go. Knorr, 20th for drought. And one of his cultivars is intentionally designed for drought. I think it is, what's it called? I don't know. Some water, something or other organization. A-list. Yeah, so he's got one A-list approved. That might be the Electra. That might be why Electra's in there. I don't know. All right, 5 iron, 30th out of 114, SS 9000, 19th. So that's drought. So Mystique could have less water than most. One time I told people it's middle of the road, but I'm like, no, actually it's, top 12% is pretty good. Okay, and then this is snow mold. You'll see it's not really good for hardly anything. It's good for on Pangea, but this, different location, different years. So Pangea is probably good. There were just a few cultivars that had nice pink snow mold, but it's not common. Rye doesn't do well where it's cold anyways. So chances are good if you have snow, it's probably cold in your area. But I did analyze that. I did include snow over here. I want to show you guys a tool I use to translate the temperatures of one area to the temperatures of another in terms of suitability for grass. So get on Google, type in your city name and the word climate,
hit enter and look for 12-month average highs and lows. Usually in January and July is where you want to look for the low and the high. That's where the numbers came from in the next clip.
So this is a location analysis. So you'll notice areas that were cold. That was a commonality in a lot of the locations where rye didn't do well. So I just basically took this data. I said, does rye do well? Or doesn't it? And let's look at the climate that it does do well in, and let's try to plant it in those climates that it does well in. And if it's colder than this, let's do KBG. But we don't need to be analyzing North Dakota, turf quality or North Dakota color or North Dakota anything when it's cold, too cold for rye. It doesn't make sense. So, 12 degrees, 13 degrees average monthly low, too cold. 6 degrees, 12 degrees, too cold. So Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri. Missouri is exempt just mostly because it didn't do well. So rye overall, not the cultivars I care about. I don't know how Mystique did in Missouri, probably well. But so Missouri, 89 degrees. The problem with Missouri, you can see here, they didn't really maybe they didn't add nitrogen or cut it or water it. I don't know, but there's just dashes in those fields. So we don't know what height of cut they cut. We don't know how much nitrogen they applied. We don't know if they watered or not. And all those put together with this 89 degrees is kind of a borderline temperature for rye. It can do it. Like up here, I kept it in all three of these locations, so 87, 86, 89. This was the only one that didn't get watered quite as much. So some stress, so watered just enough to keep it out of dormancy. And that's the Maryland location, and rye didn't do as well. There's a high temp, but this is the thing that stands out to me, is that they didn't water it as much. So the mowing heights are all over the board. The temperatures are all really similar, but that one location didn't get as much water. That one location didn't do as well. So I think 89 degrees is probably fine as long as you water it. And these colder temperatures, these are all mild areas for cold. So rye will do a little bit of heat. It will not do cold. It'll just straight up die. And then California, so Fresno, California, 99 degrees average monthly high in, that is in Fresno. So that's near LA. So that's just too far south for rye. So that location was exempt from that just based on that alone. They also didn't even water it or give it much fertilizer. It probably didn't need much fertilizer in that location because the heat would have kept it at low growth potential. And my area, is high growth potential. I need more nitrogen in my area because it's just that, grass likes the temperatures that my area has. Mild winters, mild summers. So it gets into the cold soil temps slower, and it gets into the high soil temps. It's just not, I see very few 100-degree days in my area. So more nitrogen in my area. So anyway, the amount of nitrogen, not that picky. I don't care much about the mowing height. I don't like to see this 1/2 inch. I think that's stupid. I don't even like to see this 0.6 to 1 inch, but some people like that look. But to me, it means more work, more traffic stress, and notably worse color. So you're spending more time stressing your grass out more and sacrificing color, all for what? A little bit flatter or something? There's not much there. Maybe a little lower disease if your blades are kept nice and sharp. But yeah, you have to be real mowing and cutting often. The 1/3 rule happens quick at these cutting heights. And so I like to be at 1.25 inches. This is where cool season baseball is usually done. Like professional baseball is usually 1.25 inches, 1 3/8. And I like to be right around 1.25 inches because I want the color, I want the lower amount of work, and less traffic stress. This all makes sense to me. But anyway, these locations right here are what the quality is going to be based on for the more proper and thorough analysis. The traffic, Oregon, Virginia, and New Jersey. There's also traffic done in Wisconsin, but these locations are fitting for rye is the biggest thing. So I'm going to give that a traffic score, drought score, give it recovery. I'm going to average these, I think. I'm going to average color, but also let you pick your color and also your quality locations. If you want to be a little more thorough about it, you can customize it a little. But this is all going to be on seedboss.com. You can pre-order Mystique. I don't think Mystique is going to magically dip down to 30th place for quality or color or anything like that. But yeah, at seedboss.com, I've got pre-orders going right now, and this should ship in January. I'm planning to go do a run for it to get some. So, yep, what I had already is gone. I've got a little bit that I'm hoarding just because I want it for my overseed. But I'll be getting more of it here soon. I'll probably go get a pallet or two just based on however many pre-orders I get. So there is that. And if you click on any of those, all the data I currently have here is just right here. And this is all just straight off NTEP, but I just think the color and the quality are a little sloppy currently. They give you a good idea that Mystique is way up there, and it should remain that way. The POA is not going to change. The let's see, the disease characteristics, the disease testing in these locations not going to change. The disease score is not going to change. The divot recovery is not going to change. The drought tolerance isn't going to change, and the snow mold down here is not going to change. Those are all not really location specific like quality and color are. And quality and color is so important that I want to get those right. That's why I am about to enter 3,000 fields here and get these ranked and nice and accurate and sorted. And traffic, I want to be nice and clear and easy. I want color to be nice and clear and easy. I want quality to be nice and clear and easy and specific to where rye should be planted, not North Dakota, not Fresno, California. That's what I got going on. KBG is coming up. I might add 1 or 2 rye cultivars, offer mixes possibly, and I will likely, just because I believe in, the best possible seed, I will likely let you guys customize your own grass if you want these cultivars of rye, these cultivars of KBG. I want 25 pounds, I want 5 pounds of this, 5 pounds of that, 10 pounds of Mystique, 5 pounds of this, whatever. Little fine fescue or whatever you want to put in there. I'm going to go family by family, just select the very best I can get. And I think this is pretty cool in that I'm also plugging in seed mixes. So the average disease score, the average ranking, so 1 through 114, the average turf quality, the average color, and that's all going to be location specific or averaged just for these locations here that I've intentionally and specifically selected to be most applicable to where rye should be planted. So that's what I got going on. It is involved, trust me, but I think it's worth it. I think disease and turf quality, color, these are important things to get right, and most people are just, what are they going to do? Are they going to go on NTEP and every single person's going to do data analysis on this stuff? Or every single person's going to spend 20, 30, 40 hours on one grass family? I don't think so. So anyway, I'm doing it. I'm going to put seed blends average side by side. You can have a really good idea how a certain seed blend performs for rye, how a certain seed blend performs for KBG. If there are rye and KBG mixes that are popular, I intend to give those an objective rating per NTEP, even though it's not perfect. It was never tested, and a mix theoretically should perform a little better than the average of its parts, just because the grass with the highest advantage is going to do best. So if there's rust or something prone to an area, that grass might be more likely to die or be disadvantaged for a season, which would allow the other grasses to kind of establish at a higher rate. So whenever you have a mix, you are going to gain some advantage there. But also, what I don't like about those mixes, I've said this I think already, is that you're more likely to get some disease, because if there's 4 grasses, there's 4 different opportunities for some weakness, and that 25% of the lawn that has that weakness is going to be most likely to show disease. And yeah, you're more likely to have some disease often rather than no disease. If you have a cultivar that's strong in all areas. It was interesting, Dr. Travis Shaddix, he didn't know the answer to this question, but he got the question, what if you have a cultivar or a mix or whatever that has strong genetics, no weaknesses for disease? Is that okay to plant that? And I was like, I don't know what to expect here. I obviously gambled. I planted my whole lawn in Mystique, 1 cultivar. So it made sense to me that no weakness should be pretty safe. And I was like, I'm going to do it and, hope for the best. But the seed expert that Dr. Travis Shaddix asked, so turfgrass epistemology, the seed expert he asked said, basically, it's okay. The one disadvantage is pests. So like annual bluegrass weevil, if you only have bluegrass or you only have 1 cultivar, if a rabbit might like your grass type, or a grub might like the roots that you have and, gonna go crazy and prefer to lay in your lawn. So things like chlorantraniliprole, so acelepryn, Durentis, or Grub-X in your lawn once a year, that becomes more important. The soil half-life of that stuff is 530 days, so you don't need to do it all the time, but high rate once a year is what I do basically, and that should be good. So when you have that bulletproof grub preventative, that bulletproof, doesn't, armyworm doesn't happen, things like that, with chlorantraniliprole, when you have that in your lawn, that's less of a risk. And also just the lack of weakness and disease. I don't expect a lawn that's rated 7.7 or 7.0 or whatever to just boom, be gone from gray leaf spot. If it was rated 5 or 4.8 or whatever, when Pangea gets a 4.8 rating, yeah, I expect some red thread, and I got it. So yep, Pangea, I like it overall, except for that red thread. So I don't like it in my area, but it might be a good option for you. It's an older cultivar, not too old or anything. Pretty modern, I would say. If you like, it'll put more of me in your feed. If you subscribe, you'll get these videos. My next video is probably going to be like the actual analysis, the results of this perennial rye project I have going on. So this will be on the Seed-Boss website. As I get data, I'm going to plug it right in there. So if you prefer not to watch me on YouTube, you can just go to seed-boss.com and all the data will be right there. One thing I'm doing that others aren't, so if you want to just use my website as a reference, I have no problem with that, but I am plugging in those mixes where other people are not. They're just telling you it's dark, it has good disease resistance, it has good gray leaf spot, but you wouldn't know, you wouldn't be able to easily tell how good it is. You wouldn't want to go into NTEP the right year, find that right document, and then look up 5 different grasses and then look at their ratings and then average them. That's going to take, you're just going to read it has good leaf spot and have no idea what you're actually buying. So here you'll have an objective measurement based on NTEP that you can assign to it, and you can say, oh, in my area I like Knorr's seed better, or in my area I like Seed Superstore. I think I'm going to have the best grass seed. At least that's going to be my opinion. That's my goal. Stay tuned for bluegrass, the actual results on this rye. It's going to be updated on the Mystique, and then I'm going to add cultivars to the Seed-Boss website as I get them. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.